This woman cut her narcissistic mother off for 15 years. Then she decided to break no contact. How do y'all think that went? Of course, if you're new here, I'm Lee Hammock. I'm a diagnosed narcissist, and welcome to another episode of the Narcissist Code. Let's get into it. Now, of course, this is not the real two people. This is just a dramatization of it and whatnot, right? But she said, I cut my narcissist mother off for 15 years, then I called her. And the woman name is Sarah, who's going into this as an alias, of course. She said her mother is a narcissist, and she never felt good enough for her mom. She's a narcissist, and she was always verbally and psychologically abusive. Nothing I ever did was good enough, and to this day, she has never paid me a single compliment. Narcissistic women tend to see their daughters as direct competition to them. They will intentionally try to hold them back from achieving things and from going further in life than they did. And a lot of times, what they will do is blame the child or daughter in this particular situation for them not achieving things in life. I would have done this if I wouldn't have had you. You caused me to do this. You caused me to do that, right? Never taking any accountability for what their life is or the quality of their life and whatnot, or the partners that they have chosen or ended up with. Nothing at all, right? She also said her narcissistic mother was a hater. She said that she was ugly, that she was so stupid and she never do anything in life. It's always been like that. As a child, I could see what a loving mom was through my friends' mothers, and I didn't have that. That is rough as hell as a child to deal with right there, right? And then she said she was caught in the middle. She said her mom asked her dad for a divorce. So the mom wanted a divorce from the dad, but when the dad's brother wrote a letter to the court saying, hey, my brother is a good dad, the mom lost her mind. And when Sarah defended her dad and said, hey, nothing Uncle Bob wrote was incorrect, she lost her mind on her daughter again. She said, oh, I see. Once more, your dad is right and I'm wrong. Always play in the victim. Hung the phone up on her. And at the time of that, Sarah was an adult. She's an adult in that situation. So she said her own husband, Sarah's husband, walked by and said, hey, she's not going to call you back. And Sarah immediately felt lighter, because sometimes when a narcissistic person or parent exits your life, you will feel like a weight has been lifted off, like a grand release, right? Said directly after that phone call, she found out that she was pregnant, and they didn't speak for 10 years. She said she found out she was pregnant. It didn't move her mom at all. Then in 2006, the brother passed away. At that point, my parents were divorced, and my mom had sold the family home and had been living with my brother. Oh my goodness. I went to see her. My dad dropped me off outside her door, and I saw her for the first time in 10 years. It was weird. She was 74, and she looked smaller than I remember. Not only had I lived 10 years without her, which gave me a lot of time to heal, but she didn't have the same authority over me, just some woman. This is why going no contact with a narcissistic parent can be you can have a cathartic release, right? Because you realize that you don't need them. Like, even though they try to make you, a narcissistic parent a lot of times will try to make you feel like a burden, you realize that you're not a burden. Especially when you start having your own kids. You're like, wait, I'm not treating my kids like my parents treated me. I must be a better parent than my parents were to me. It can wake you up, but it can also traumatize you. That's one of the things right there, right, about waking up and understanding that you had a narcissistic parent. That reliving and recognizing what you went through as trauma can open your eyes to a lot of things and make you feel bad, right? It's kind of like waking up in the Matrix and, taking the red pill and waking up in the Matrix and just like, damn, I wish I never woke up sometime, like your boy Cypher. I wish I can go back to the Matrix and pretend nothing happened. Remember, the brother just passed away. Sarah said she went up to her brother's flat, and the mom had already got rid of everything that was her brother's. Literally got rid of everything. She said that she came home from the hospital. She took all this stuff and put it on the pavement. In that moment, I realized that she hadn't changed, and she is fundamentally incapable of love. She threw her deceased son, who she was living with, who was taking care of her, she threw his stuff out in the street for people to come get. Right. Despite all her talk about how much she loved him, he was barely cold when she had removed all his stuff. It was like he was never there. We didn't reconcile then. We spent some pleasantries, whatever. She asked about my son, 9 years old, and showed me around her flat. Then she said she felt pity for her mom. After she left, she said she felt pity. She's like, by the time I was home, I remember feeling pity for her. Even though she is not affected by the things that most people are, I wouldn't wish the loss of a child on anyone. And like a lot of narcissists, she doesn't have any friends. Nobody that she's close to, nobody that she can turn to. She's literally by herself. And because narcissists don't process grief the same way that other folks do, she just shut down, completely shut down. Just went into her shell. Didn't try to reconnect with her daughter. Didn't just say, hey, look, my son has passed away. Only thing I got left is my daughter. Didn't do any of that because pride and ego take over a narcissist's brain. It like eats away at a narcissist's brain like a parasite. Pride, ego, and of course, the dreaded shame monster eats away at a narcissist's ego, right? She said she tried to call her mom after the funeral or whatever, and she was trying to call her to make sure she was okay. And she said the third time that she called, her mom snapped at her and said, you don't need to keep calling. I've lived perfectly well without you for 10 years. I can live without you for another 10. No need to call me back. Oof. How evil is that to say to your daughter? I told her that her wish is my command and put the phone down. We didn't speak for another 5 years. That's wild, ain't it? That's wild. And she was a mom herself. The memories of how she never hugged, kissed us, or touched us seemed to be. You see what I'm saying? Didn't I just say that? I didn't read this article first, y'all. I seen the title and I'm going to react to it. Did I just say that? No. I said that you get a narcissistic parent like this. When you become a parent, you look at how you were raised by your narcissistic parent and it just boggles your mind. Like my mom or my dad never hugged me. They never kissed me. They never told me that they loved me. They never showed me any type of affection. It's like I didn't exist or didn't matter to them, because you get a lot of narcissists that just they don't have the ability to do that, right? If you want to keep that parent in your life, you got to accept them for who they are. On her 80th birthday, I decided to call her. She answered and said, oh, it's you. I replied, yes, it's me. I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. Somehow we ended up talking for half an hour. And then, taking responsibility, I very quickly realized I was wasting my time. You cannot rewrite the past, but she was now in her early 80s. I felt responsible because I was her only family member. Yep, by herself. A lot of narcissists don't end up by themselves a lot of times, y'all. Sometimes they'll end up lonely, but they're not alone, right? They might still be in a relationship. They might still have people around, but because they lack the ability to connect deeply, they are lonely people, right? She said they started trying to build a relationship, but Sarah said that when she would talk to her mom, she could literally put the phone down and walk away, and her mom wouldn't even notice that she wasn't listening because she was so focused on talking about herself. She was so immersed with herself that she didn't care what else was going on, right? It's kind of crazy. Tough part right here. She said, I knew she didn't love me, but she was elderly and I needed to look after her. It continued to move until January 2024. That's when she fell, broke her wrist, and everything changed. I moved her into a care home, and because of vascular dementia, she essentially had her memory wiped. Oh, what? She's 93 years old, and we can't have conversations. The abuse has stopped, and she seems happy when I visit her. I feel there's no point in holding a grudge at this point. There's some sadness that I have. Having a good relationship with your mother is something I'll never know. I'm sadder for her than for myself because she never really understood the joys of motherhood. She was so jealous of me, so petty, so concerned with putting me down to feel better about herself. You see what I'm saying? Ain't that what I said narcissistic parents do? They are jealous of you. They compete with you. They put you down in order to try to pick themselves up because that's the easy way out of stuff. The easy way to do things is to just try to hurt you to make themselves feel better. In the last slide, she says she has no regrets. But in the case of what I've been through, with abuse or betrayal, I completely understand. You don't have to put up with a member of your family for the sake of it if they are a source of bullying, abuse, or betrayal. I do not regret the years I spent not talking to my mother. I would do it again in a heartbeat if someone was abusive towards me. Good for you. But reconciling also suited me. I was ready for it. But it cannot be about them. It's got to be about you. That's cool, man. That is really cool. And this article is from, you can just check it out on msn.com. I cut my mother off for 15 years. Then I called her. MSN.com has this. It's by Sahabia O'Sullivan. I can't even pronounce stuff right. Yeah, that was a good article though. I mean, it's empowering because and that's why I tell people, going no contact is your own personal journey. It doesn't necessarily have to be a forever thing. If it's a parent or somebody like that. Now it could be forever. If it's forever, then hey, by all means possible, by all means. But sometimes, like this woman right here, she took 15 years, healed, and just said, hey, look, I'm good. She can't hurt me anymore. I'm good. I'm doing this for me. She can't hurt me anymore. And sometimes what ends up happening, and you have to be okay with this, when you go no contact with a parent or a sibling or whoever it is, right, you have to be okay with them possibly passing away. But if you think like, I need to reconcile with them, and you find out that they've passed away, that's going to be a thing that you might have to deal with as well in certain circumstances, right? Because you can't control whether they're going to be here or not. You know what I mean? And let me say this real quick. I'm not telling you to break no contact. That's not what I'm saying. I know a lot of y'all be like, Lee, you told me to break no contact. No, I didn't. If you are not there, if you don't want to, do not do it. Do not break no contact with an abusive, neglectful ass parent. They don't deserve it, and you don't deserve to put yourself through having to talk to them and deal with them and be manipulated by them. That's not something that you have to do. 100%, that's not necessary. I want y'all to heal. I want y'all to be the best versions of yourself, of course, y'all, because that's what I'm here for, right? If y'all haven't noticed, I'm just switching the content up a little bit here and there. I'm about to start doing more story times, and I'm also bringing back my live show with Jessica, waving the red flag. That's coming back as well. But in the end, I'm doing a workshop, not a workshop, a live Q&A session in New York City on June the 2nd. I haven't booked the space yet, so I haven't had the details, but if you want me to email you or send you some information, just comment below. Just comment NYC below. And when I get the details, I will comment to you or email you directly or whatever, or I'll do a personal side video about it as well, right? New York City, I've never been. It's going to be a very interesting, just live Q&A. It's not a workshop. It's come get your questions answered, right? It's going to be a lot of, I'm going to keep it small. I don't want to make it big, but you come in there, get your questions answered. And you want to do a one-on-one personally, mentalhealness.net. Enter the code MENTAL15, MENTAL 15 for 15% off, y'all. Makes it really cheap. Hit the subscribe button, y'all. I'm out. Peace.